welcome everybody to another episode of the Growthentic podcast with Shane and myself. Happy Sunday, Shane. How you
Yeah,
doing, my
happy
man?
Sunday. Welcome in, everybody. Excited for another episode here. I think for this one, Sam's got some SEO sauce cooked up for us. So I'm excited to listen and learn. And now SEO and GEO is all the rage. So I think this is no better time than to hop into this.
Yeah, absolutely, man. We'll hop right in. But look, haven't been able to talk to you in a little while, man. How are you doing?
Yeah, we're good, man. It's been a whirlwind the last couple of weeks. We were in launch phase for our spring AI activation program, which is AI training for technical businesses, mostly engineering powered businesses. And yeah, we kicked it off last week on Tuesday with our first week one session and got a great group of people in there. We got 17 participants from a variety of companies all over the world. We actually had our first international clients. We got some folks from Canada joining us right now,
Oh, amazing.
and yeah, all over the country from East Coast to West Coast. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's just I just get totally energized by being able to help folks unlock different use cases for AI, and most of them are starting. People have been using it or might have awareness around it, but they haven't been taught a structured framework to build foundations and then go up from there. So we spend a lot of time personalizing and doing foundational steps initially, and then we're going to really start to ramp it up in week 2 for AI systems and stuff. So yeah, we've been just going crazy. We're getting ready for that. There's all of the marketing, then there's the sales cycle for that, then there's the actual delivery piece of it. And so it's been a ton of fun, learned a lot, and took a bunch of notes for our next one, which will start in September. So early September, we're going to launch our fall version of the program. And yeah, so it's just been a whirlwind of the last couple of weeks, really since the beginning of April. So, but happy to be back here talking with you and excited for a couple of different sessions here today.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And for those listening who might be listening to us for the first time, don't be shy to reach out to Shane. Even if you're not in the engineering space, he is an AI expert, and that is industry agnostic. It's process centric, so everyone works with processes, everyone works with workflows and different team members. And I've learned a ton just by these conversations, but also sidebar conversations that I've had with Shane. So absolutely reach out to Shane. If any of the things that we talk about, whether it's AI engineering related or just AI related, you can hit him up on Instagram at Shane Chalupa or on LinkedIn as well at Shane Chalupa. Yeah, but I guess without further ado, we tend to do some more technical sessions here and there on the Growthentic podcast. And today, there was something just so top of mind that I texted Shane. I was like, I need to talk about this a little bit. It was such an unlock for me. I think it paints this picture really nicely of what the SEO practitioner is going to be doing more of now and absolutely into the near future. So, yeah, I'll talk through what the specific use case was and kind of tie it all together with 3 takeaways, which I think will be helpful for all SEOs and GEOs out there now. Um, so I had a client that came to me and said, "Hey, we have these regular meetings and we do so much good work, but our reporting is just not flexible enough to answer questions like, and these are probably questions that SEOs get on the daily, right? Or marketing managers get very frequently. Questions like, how is our most recent branded campaign performing? Is our brand awareness growing in a new market or a new topical category that we want to become more relevant in, right? Let's say you have a new service or new product feature. It's not just about having a product feature page on your website, but it's also speaking authoritatively if you are an expert in that space to grow your relevance in that space. um, So a question like, is our brand awareness growing in a topical space is so important for a marketing manager to be able to answer, which ladders up to the executive level of, what is our marketing team doing to help promote this new service or product? So it's a really important question to be able to answer. Um, and also on the flip side of things, if something isn't going well, what's not working in our content program or some of the more recent campaigns that we've pushed live. So there's so many questions that kind of filter down to the SEO practitioner having to come up with a way to answer those questions in a more scalable way versus having to go into your analytics platform of choice, stitching together data. And then before you know it, you've spent half a day working on this, right? And then lo and behold, 1 week passes, they have follow up questions, and you're spending another 4 hours doing this all over again. For this particular client, we publish um, anywhere between 4 to 6 pages per week. And these pages are not just blog articles, it can be across the entire buyer's funnel, top, mid, bottom funnel type content, different page types, and they do so much because their service and product addresses such a large TAM, target addressable market,
Hmm.
that the topical areas that they're publishing content can be anywhere between 5 to 10 topical areas within a given week. So they have good breadth and depth of content, which makes those questions, the answers to those questions, even more difficult to answer because those questions can um, create different workflows for the SEOs to retrieve those answers for the client and the executive C-suite folks. So I wanted to get ahead of this potential challenge of having to spend so much time. And look, it's not a good client experience either, where they're having to ask you questions. They wait 3 to 4 business days to get an answer. It just creates a lot of friction. And in today's day and age, where we have so much technological capabilities at our fingertips, we shouldn't be spending that much time on questions like these. Um, so yeah, that was the scenario that I was put in about a couple of weeks ago now, and so we took the time. We met with the client and we just discussed what is the ideal state for us to be able to answer these questions on a recurring basis with speed and with accuracy. And we decided that we wanted a dashboard. And look, there's probably a million and one ways to do this, but for us, what made sense was to create a dashboard that automatically crawls the website on a recurring basis, then categorizes all the content on the website by funnel type, page type, as well as topical category. Like that's what made the most sense for this client. Um, and so we put together a process for that. And once we're able to retrieve that information, then the dashboard becomes a very powerful tool because we can join that data with analytics data. And the common denominator between those two sources are the actual pages themselves. So my SEO folks out there who know how to blend data in Looker dashboards, you guys will understand this. But if we did like a left join between the crawl data that has landing page and page type, funnel type, topical category type, and then has Google Analytics, Google Search Console, and all the other tools that has landing page data, we use that left joiner of landing pages to connect those two very powerful sources of information. So that was our blueprint, right? Our process of how to create this dashboard that can answer those questions and would be a huge unlock for us. Now came the really fun part, right? Historically, I would probably have to, hit up someone that specializes in web analytics and data reporting,
Hmm.
utilize my knowledge, spend time with them to architect something together. Probably takes anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks to come up with the actual plans to implement. But now, my choice for architecting this was nothing so complex. What I deferred to was creating a project in Claude. utilizing source documents from Google Analytics, Google Search Console, Looker, all of the tools that I was going to use. I was putting all of the best practice developer documents and guides into that project. With some custom instructions and then a central MD file, which basically mimics the conversation that my client and I was having, the process, what we're trying to get to, what the source data is trying to do for us. And I just started talking to it, guys. Like that's all you have to do. You have to, if you're feeling lazy, I know Shane, you've had this feedback, this tip in the past where if your brain is fried, just tell it to interview you, right? Just have it ask you the questions and you're just there, just talking to it exactly what you want out of that session. So that all in all took about 45 minutes for us to come up with a very clear plan of implementing this. And so all in all, within about 2 hours, we were able to come up with a really high powered reporting tool that, again, as I said in the instruction phase of this, it auto crawls the site, auto categorizes, then updates a client facing dashboard so that my client now doesn't have to. They can obviously come to me to answer those questions, but they can now actually just go to the dashboard, get that information 5 minutes before their next marketing meeting, and be filled with confidence to answer all of those difficult questions. So, huge unlock there for the client, huge unlock for me because I know this is a challenge and a scenario that all all companies that are investing in marketing to a certain degree faces. Um, and yeah, I thought this was just not only top of mind, but I thought so applicable to you know old workflows that can get enhanced now by AI as long as you have a clear understanding of how to do it manually, have really good context of the business, obviously, and have aligned expectations on the output with the client. Um, so yeah, just to wrap that all up in three takeaways, which I hope really charges anyone out there listening, and is just a good way to even revalidate in my mind that this is where we're going with things. Is that number one? What once seemed really intensive or even like improbable, right? I feel like throughout my career, there are so many moments of like, I just can't do this. Like I just don't know. And we would always figure it out and problem solve. But that initial mental blocker of like, this is improbable is just not the case anymore. Everything that had been improbable in the past is definitely possible now. And just realizing that, and hopefully this brief session has at least unlocked 1% of that blocking mentality that someone has out there. Um, because it truly is. Shane, you probably experience this every other minute of the day. There's so many problems that we need to solve, and um, problem solving has become almost a strength with the help of AI. So that's takeaway number one. What seems too labor intensive or improbable is definitely possible now. Number two is, a lot of people talk about AI as a workflow enhancer, and that absolutely is. But I think one thing that's not part of the daily discourse around AI is that it's a great relationship builder. Like in this case, the friction that we were able to preemptively remove from my client having to answer questions to their not only direct reports, but also the executive team, that's a relationship builder. And we used AI to create a solution that can get answers to their questions with relative speed and confidence to really build some better rapport. Not to say that they were in bad standing, but it just grows our relationship, grows more confidence between the folks internally. And of course, the relationship between my clients and I get better as we're enhancing those workflows. So that's number two. AI isn't just for workflow improvement, it's a relationship builder as well. And then number three, this is squarely for my SEO folks out there. Um, This is just one of thousands, not, if not tens of thousands of workflows that AI can really enhance for you. So I think we as SEOs need to start shifting our mindset as from practitioners into operators. We have a superpower, and that superpower is that we lived in the days where AI didn't exist, meaning we really went through the grunt work of doing a lot of these processes manually and through some automation that is seems so antiquated at this point with AI, but it was really supercharged at that time, right? But we went through the ring of doing it relatively, manually, relatively speaking. And that's such a superpower. And as we, like, I really hope that we start to think of ourselves not only as practitioners, but really as operators. And in this specific case, now that we have this really powerful dashboard, it's relatively set and forget, but the business isn't set and forget. The business keeps moving, the marketing team changes, our goalposts change. That means as the SEO practitioner and operator, we need to update the context, the modeling, and what the output of these tools, of this tool and all the other tools that we'll start using, so that it continues to be really effective and relevant to what we're doing as an organization. So that's number three. As SEOs, let's start to think of ourselves as practitioners and operators, because we're going to start using a lot of these sort of AI tools, whether it's agentic or using AI to create tools that are more like point solution web app tools. Um, it's going to require our brain power and our knowledge of how to actually do the work to feed it the right context to output things that are actually valuable and insightful for the entire marketing org. So that's number three.
Nice. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, there's so much to be learned there. A few questions that came to my mind are, I know you mentioned creating the dashboard solution in Claude. And is that something that you shared out as a live Claude artifact, or did you then move it over to something that you're hosting and have maybe even tied in some database storage on the back end as well?
Yeah, so if this was a net new client starting from scratch, I think I would have gone a route sort of like that.
Hmm.
Right now, we have our reporting all within this tool called Looker Dashboard. I think
Hmm.
they've just rebranded or rebranded. They went from Data Studio to Looker, now back to Data Studio. It's a very commonly used reporting tool because it has a lot of connectors with some of the usual analytics platforms that a lot of SEOs and marketers use.
Hmm.
So in this case, I felt that building it within the existing reporting suite made the most sense. But I can totally see, because I didn't I don't know enough about this to speak um, fluently about, but I believe there are ways directly in Claude to now connect to those analytics platform to have a dashboard directly within Claude. So I think there's absolutely a use case out there that, Data Studio is now not your reporting suite of choice. You can actually, house everything within Claude if we wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. And that's kind of what I was wondering. So that spawned two questions, or one question, one comment. Is when you were using Claude, did you end up having Claude give you the directions and information to build it out inside of Data Studio slash Looker, or did it build it for you and then you just deployed it there?
Um, the former. I
Okay.
didn't have it go because it wasn't just in Data Studio. The Data Studio part was actually the easiest. I actually
Mm.
didn't really even need the instructions. The part that was fairly new to me was using a tool on my local computer that crawls a website. And I know there's stuff like
Mm.
Playwright out there that can do this more agentically. But we have a really, I think it's a much more powerful tool than Playwright. But Screaming
Mm.
Frog crawls websites, and that workflow of taking that information, putting it into a local project, or even, it could potentially be on a Git repo. But I think Um, Probably an unnecessary step in this workflow. But for
Hmm.
now, it was, how do we bring that crawl data into a local database
Hmm.
that feeds into the data studio, well, then feeds into a Google Sheet that
Mm.
is pushed into a Google Studio report or Data Studio report. So that was a new workflow for me that um, I had to leverage Claude to provide the instructions for. Um, but now I am also now thinking, what is the next version of this? Because everything right now is a proof of concept. It's an MVP, V1. Um, but that's the exciting part. Once we kind of get that snowball, rolling, there's new things that we can do to make it even more. Again, back to that number one takeaway. Nothing is improbable now. The possibilities are endless, and whatever we can do to build that relationship, make everyone's life and job a little bit easier. That's our duty as SEO operators to pursue for our clients.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. That's the exact way to, that I think about things is like working out the work process, the workflow, and what are the ultimate outcomes and objectives, which in this case, you were working with your client. Sometimes the client is internal, right? So for companies that we work with, they have their client facing work, but a lot of the stuff that they need to do is actually to satisfy their internal teams in order to nail those workflows and processes down. And once they have that, then it's kind of like, all right, let's create an MVP. Let's just get something stood up. And then over time, you can evolve and grow that and expand it. And yeah, as you were talking through it, for me, it was like, maybe there's like Kelly the Keyrise chatbot that you have deployed for your clients, right? And then they, or even just a login with into their dashboard with the Kelly chatbot, and it's like, hey, generate a report for me, and then your clients can then use that as a service where it just basically spits all that information out for them, and they can manipulate and analyze the data. Is maybe one of the more advanced solutions that is within reach, right? Back to your point, is if you start with something, get it working, show that there's value there, and then how do you also bake that into either a longevity piece or an additional add-on. That's another add-on you can give to your clients, where it's like, a lot of this software as a service is kind of shifting to now service as a software, right? And so if you can provide these services in the form of a tool like a chatbot or a platform that you host and manage, then it becomes, yeah, you're not tied to just whatever the predetermined softwares have built in. It's like the world becomes yours to shape and mold and ultimately provide the most value for either you internally or your clients, depending on what you're building out.
Totally. I think, as I retrospect a little bit on my AI journey and just even the last 3 months, that's sort of how everything's materializing, where it's, you see problem, you solve problem, and you think about how do we then make this valuable for all clients? And so it's quite literally like a double screen scenario of like one screen is let's solve this problem, get an MVP stood up, and then now we have our KeyRise web app that houses, a more kind of um, fully baked out, a lot more rigor and some guardrails put around things like, do we have all the client profile information in there, their branded terms, their writing guidelines, their um, target audience pain points, their personas, like everything to do with that client that helps the platform ground itself on true data backed information. Yeah, I think that's the way it's going. These point solutions then get tossed into that web app, makes it accessible at least for now for internal employees. But there can absolutely be an external public facing section of that web app that if we're ready for prime time, we'll release that, have an OAuth, and allow clients to access that. Because yeah, it would be so cool. It's pretty much like your brain in that web app, and allows clients to sort of access you at any point, whenever they want.
Yeah. Oh, 100%. It's exciting, and thanks for sharing this step by step and the outcomes that you delivered here. I think there's so much to be learned of like you said, just even the mindset piece. And when you're talking about nothing is improbable and problem solving, it just happens to be that Anthropic Claude, right? One of their statements is something along the lines of like, "There's never been a worse time to be a problem," and I often say that in my mind all the time during the day. It's like working with our clients and in the trainings and things of different wins that people have, and it's just like the speed at which you can solve these problems now is so fast, and you can not only solve the problem but you can actually build out the infrastructure needed for it in real time. And so it's gone from something of like an idea to then having to create a forecast of ROI and on project financials and like write up all these memos to now it's like just do the demo on it, like just build the MVP, see if it works, and if it works, great, then you either expand it like you're doing, or it's like, no, this is what we needed, we're going to just house this and run it repeatably. And so we've seen that over and over again with our customers, where in training and different wins and situations, they're literally saving time while they're doing their workflow, such that the first time they do it with AI, it's like a net zero. Like it's not, they're not saving time on the first run, but they're literally doing it in the same amount of time while building the AI infrastructure or the AI tool that they need. So that way, every other time, it's maybe a fourth of the time that it used to take. And so it just compounds. And there is some investment required. Of course, there's like management of the tools in the background. There is the initial shaping and quality checks to do all that. But like once you build it and you have it running, then from there on out, it's just ROI positive very fast. So the speed at which you can solve these problems and build infrastructure in parallel is just incredible. And it's only going to get better as the large language models get better and the wrappers and harnesses get better as well. Like the speed is just incredible. So it's a fun time for sure.
Absolutely, I love that. It's the worst time to be a problem. It's so good. Well, look, yeah, a bit of a short and sweet one here. Hopefully, you guys found some value. And again, anything around AI or engineering, please don't be shy to reach out to Shane on Instagram and LinkedIn at Shane Chalupa. I'm also very active on LinkedIn at Sam Lee. We'd love to hear from you guys.
Nice. Yeah. Thanks, everybody.